Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. Normally you guys know I would like to do my for a little bit longer, but I can't today because I'm having to do a fairly quick stream, but that's okay because we've only got a couple of little bits and bobs to discuss. The amount of news has been relatively minimal today, but we got a couple of things to talk about. We've got the match against Liverpool to discuss a little bit of, and we have the updates around James Trafford. Now, very, very hard to have updates around a player that is effectively already done, because as we already know, James Trafford is effectively through the door. We are just waiting for the formalities on that one. However, in terms of the formalities, it is looking like the medical will be done in the next 48 to 72 hours, which is relatively immediate term compared to how it could have been. And yeah, it seems like it's basically done, and it is the move that we all would have looked at ahead of the window as sort of the dream transfer for Leeds United, so that'd be quite nice. We've been waiting longer than that. Yeah, it's fine. I don't mind waiting for a deal. At the end of the day, we've got until the start of the season, and when it comes to players to be picked up, James Trafford is a very, very good one, and when it comes to positions to integrate into your side, one of the easiest positions to integrate into the squad is a goalkeeper. It will take very little time to go from James Trafford is coming to James Trafford is in and part of the first team. It'll be like that. I know that we all like to be a little bit sort of spooked all the time as Leeds United fans. That's effectively what we do at our best. But it is literally just going to be a case of Trafford comes in, gets in the team. It's not very hard to adapt to your back line because at most, you'll have to pass a little bit more. Like, that's fine. It's not going to be a problem. I think... Plus, let's be honest, he can't train anyway. He's on his mandated break. He wouldn't be able to train or play regardless, so the speed of the transfer doesn't matter until the 9th of August, which means we've got plenty of time. It's not a problem. So the rumours saying the deal's off for fake accounts. Yes, as far as I can tell, the rumours that are saying that we are not signing James Trafford are effectively bollocks. I've not seen anyone at all reliable saying that James Trafford isn't going to be coming to Leeds because, let's be honest, it's functionally done. Like, no one is looking at that situation and going, that's not good, is it? We're all right. We've effectively got the deal sorted. I don't see the panic that some people have because it's not been formalised yet. Like, we're the only team that have been part of the conversation. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Like, fine. But come on. Come on now. Let's not be daft. Let's not be silly. We need to get our skates on now, 4 or 5 to get in the next 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks? We got more than 3 weeks, it's fine. We got a month till the end of the window, and that'll pretty much do. Harvey, I am doing pretty damn well, and I'm doing almost as well as Leeds United did in the friendly against Liverpool. There we go, that's a nice little segue, you got to be smooth with it. In which the Whites looked incredibly happy, incredibly comfortable throughout the second half at the very least, and ultimately got to where we needed to be. Now, the first half, admittedly, didn't look fantastic. We let in a couple of fairly cheap goals. The first one, I think, was one from a set piece where we just left a man completely unmarked, which is a bit of a shame, and the ball slid by Ethan Ampadu and our goalkeeper, which, again, not fantastic. The second goal, a little bit less forgivable because it wasn't a set piece, and set pieces have a little bit of chaos about them. The second goal was Florian Wirtz making a hell of a run onto a ball from, I believe, Frimpong. Stunning finish. Not much Alex Cairns can do about it, to be honest with you, but at the end of the day, it's a pre-season friendly, and we can learn from these mistakes rather than sort of looking at them and going, ooh, we're deep in trouble. However, I'm not going to be following the same it's a pre-season friendly sort of rule and regulation that I tend to set when we lose for when we win. Instead, I'm going to absolutely revel in the fact that we overcame Liverpool with relative ease in the second half. Once our sort of more aggressive part of the front line came on the pitch, they really proved why they can do that. They really proved why that is their role. Hold on, I'm just going to bring up a little bit of information about the match itself, which might take me a second. There we go. Yeah. So from, I'd say, the 50-something minute onward, the match, well, effectively the entire second half, the match swung quite heavily in our favour. And from the moment it swung in our favour, it was simply a matter of time until we eventually scored that goal, which we first did with Brendan Aronson. Again, not enough people putting respect on Brendan Aronson's name, which is understandable. Like, he's had his... Like the club, he's had his ups and downs, which is basically fine. Following that, Calvert-Lewin, again, proved the threat that he's got from set pieces, which is genuinely fantastic. And our entire plan of get the big lads to the front post to flick the ball onto the finishing lad at the back post is something that we did throughout last season as well, and I'm glad that we're continuing that because it's something that works. Our centre-backs don't really lose headers a lot of the time. By comparison, Calvert-Lewin loves putting the ball in the back of the net. So you win the header. Calvert-Lewin is for the most part completely unmarked because he's not going for that first ball like every single defender is drawn towards. And then he can score with ease, piece of pace. Following that, Longstaff, bit of a weird goal, bit scuffed, but it dribbles its way in past, I think Mamadashvili was their goalkeeper for that section. And then Calvert-Lewin, again, ball flicked on to the back post, headed home by DCL. Perfect. That's just what we needed to do. And the fact that we've come out of this sort of run of fixtures, sure, we lost to Wrexham. That's kind of fine, though, because it doesn't particularly matter. Wrexham, we're not going to play them this season at all. We were playing our first match of pre-season. They were 3 or 4 games into pre-season already. So the fact that we didn't win that and didn't sort of dominate it and sort of run over them is fine. I'm not particularly arsed about it. That's okay. Then proceeding to beat Sunderland in a match that a lot of people have called boring. I say we did what we had to do, and that's fine. And then against Liverpool, managing to eke out a win despite being 2 goals down at half-time was also absolutely fantastic, so I'm very, very happy with it. And then we come back to the UK. And we come back to 3 friendlies, and then the season begins. First is RB Leipzig, where, to answer Mark's question, Trafford will still be unavailable. He's not going to be there for Leipzig. I believe he's also not going to be there for Manchester United. I believe if James Trafford is going to play for Leeds United in pre-season, it will be the match against Augsburg, because I think that the sort of rest period for... No, wait, hold on, he might play against Man United. Okay, he could play against Manchester United. I think that'll only be a half because he won't have had any time with the squad. But yeah, I was getting my dates confused. Yes, he can play against Manchester United, in theory. I think it's more likely that he does so against Augsburg because I think we'll see what our lineup is going to be going into the first match of the season against Augsburg, because you've kind of got to test out what your squad's actually going to look like, because if you don't do that, then you get a little bit lost, and I think a good start against Forest is going to be one of the most important things that we can do here. So hopefully we do. Did Leeds play yesterday the way BBC were talking about Liverpool were on their own out there? I saw that and I was a bit like, come on. At least pretend that you're doing a bit of journalism. At least pretend that you've watched the match, not just read a post-match report. It was all very much like... And then Liverpool sadly dropped the lead and they lost their defensive structure, and there was no sort of conversation around Harry Wilson playing incredibly well, putting in a really, really strong work rate and pulling their defence all over the place. There was nothing about Muharemovic, for example, playing a really nice ball in behind to James Justin, which unfortunately cross didn't come in quite right, but all of these individual factors in this match were a part of the fact that we beat Liverpool. Liverpool didn't just lose to us. We earned that win, and I feel like a lot of the reporting's kind of gone, well, Leeds weren't here. Let's put them over there and hope that no one pays any attention to them. Which is sort of irritating because I know that it's not something that matters. I know what a reporter says doesn't really have an impact on the team or anything like that. But it would be nice if the club got a little bit of recognition for a very good result against a very good side in pre-season. Admittedly, it's not the most important of games, but you know. Wrexham had already beaten Man U in their previous games playing us. Yeah, there we go. So Wrexham were far more on it. They'd done a hell of a lot more football in pre-season than us. So I don't particularly mind us losing that match in the slightest. And we won the little mini tournament. So, up yours, Wrexham. Sadly, no trophy, but that's okay. I thought Bordow made a good effort. He did, yes, which I would rather he didn't have to, because I would have preferred us to have Gudmundsson. But when you've got injuries, you've got injuries. And if there is any doubt about the fitness of a player in a pre-season match, you go, right, okay, you get out now. we'll replace you, and then we'll build from there, and we'll see what we can do, because you don't really want to make any risks when it comes to injury and stuff like that. Need to get this over the line so we can sleep easy at night. I'm sleeping easy anyway. At the end of the day, like, Trafford's going to come. If he doesn't, then I'm going to call it an act of God. Like, there's nothing that is really looking like it'll stop us from signing James Trafford at this point, so I've not really got any particular problems with it. Is it time to get rid of Tanaka? I don't think so. I think it's, at the very least, he can play a pretty damn good squad role, which I've not got any issues with, to be honest with you. Like, you need to have rotational players in your squad, no matter what. So there's no point going, right, okay, you're not in the first team anymore, leave the club. Because at that point, all you're kind of doing is weakening the squad. A lot of people have looked at Leeds and gone, there's not a load of squad depth there. So if we respond to that by going, and then we sold Tanaka because he wasn't in the first team anymore, it feels like a mistake, I think. What's the situation with Goodmanson? Is he out for the long term? I don't know. I don't think we've got any further details on the Gabby situation. Hopefully he's not out for the long term, because we know how important he is. He's basically our left back extraordinaire that does his thing and does it quite well. But yeah, in the post match there was nothing gotten from Farker that effectively said, yes, he's out for a long while. I think it would have been mentioned. I think he was taken off mainly as a precaution. Clearly there was something up, but it didn't look like it was going to be a thing that is up for a very, very long time. To Michael Brown, I believe Cairns will probably be our goalkeeper for the rest of the pre-season friendlies, outside of when Trafford is available and eligible. I think it'll be a case of last week, the window, we look for that second goalkeeper and get something done that looks like it's good value to us, as opposed to sort of jumping in and being like, we urgently need 2 goalkeepers. Someone will be looking for a move in the last week of the window, and it feels a little bit more sensible to be patient with it, as opposed to just jumping and making a potential mistake, which is something that Leeds have a tendency to do sometimes. Well, in the past, not now, but you don't want the 49ers falling into the traps that Red Rosani did, because if that happened, that would be not fun. A long ball from Tarek over the top to Justin led to the throw he scored from, didn't it? It did, yes. And it is just pre-season, so you can't really judge a lot of Muharemovic yet, but he's looking incredibly good at football. Like, I know that's a stupid thing to say, he's a £34 million footballer, but he's one of those players that you look at and you go, if you keep that potential going, that's special. I'm going all right, John Pepper. I will probably not be on for too long, maybe another 5 minutes or so, because I've got some bits and bats to do. I've got to do a tray bake, for example, do a little bit of cleaning, and then a 7-a-side later. And I think I'm only going to play half of the match in net, because this finger still hurts from last week, because you see it doesn't bend all the way right now. The rest of them go all the way. That one doesn't. I tried to save a shot that ended up going into the back of my net, but that was because I saved it like this. Because I just sort of threw a hand in its general direction, it deflected a bit funny, hit me like that, and then the joint here has felt a little bit wrong all week. So I'm only going to play half in net, and then call it, don't bend it then. Thank you, Jimmy Sandwiches. That's exactly what I needed to hear right now. Goodmanson's been consistently injured, isn't a good sign for the rest of the season. We need a left wing back. I am increasingly coming over to the school of thought that Jayden Linu wouldn't be the worst of choices as our backup left back, but it's hard to say. The ring players Aronson and Longstaff did play yesterday. Goal assist for Aronson and Longstaff on the score sheet. Yes, I'm very glad that they've been playing well, because it means that, again, we've got that little bit of depth that's able to do its job. And if we don't have that much depth, then we could be in trouble, because we've seen what no depth in the Premier League looks like when we played Arsenal in the season before the one we got relegated, and we ended up having to put a 15-year-old on the bench, and that wasn't fun. But it is looking very, very, very promising so far. I'll have a very quick look at other bits and bobs of news and see if anything has popped out. I've seen that Barron Cross has done a tweet, but it's about Scotland's talent pipeline, which I think isn't a particular problem, to be honest with you, because I'm not Scottish, and I don't particularly care about that, so you can deal with that one, Scotland. Goodmanson's hamstring nearly as bad as James's. We don't know if it's hamstring. I don't know. I do still agree that we could do with an upgrade on Piru. We looked fairly blunt in the final third in the first half, which isn't what you want to see. And you could visibly tell that when we brought on Calvert-Lewin, it's like, oh, okay, things have actively changed here. If we have someone of like a similar level that can challenge him, or in the event that Calvert-Lewin is injured, can just replace him, that would be an absolute lifesaver for us, I think. It would relieve a hell of a lot of the pressure on him. And it would mean that in the event that he does get hurt, because he will get hurt at some point, it eases things a bit for us. Once your hammies go, they go consistently. The worst, I think, muscle damage that I've ever done to myself, at least like doing a sport, was when I was running on the wing in a football match. My foot mid-step cramped up, and then whilst it was cramped up, I didn't have a chance to like slow down and hop onto the other foot. So I landed with all of my weight on that leg, and in that moment it sort of like pulled out the calf again, and it went from as seized as it can get to as loose as it can go within like 2 steps time, and it was the worst experience that I've had. It was really, really bad. Why not look at Openda, who went on loan to Lyon, I think, but Leeds don't like loans. I imagine we just didn't particularly like Openda. When I've watched Openda, I've not been hugely impressed. I know he's a decent player, but he's not a case of he's a player that we urgently need. Like, there's other options that we can go for. Why are we trying to do a Welsh accent? That hurt me, Stephen. How many Scottish players do you think we had? We've had plenty of Scottish players. Aronson and Longstaff don't necessarily have the technique and ball playing qualities of a top midfielder, but they have the other attributes that bring to the team that aids Leeds midfield. I agree, Michael Brown. Anyway, I'm going to end the stream roughly there because I've got some bits and bats to do. But before I do so, I will just make a quick request to you that you pop a like on the stream, that button's over there, that you subscribe to the channel, that button's down there. Both of them free to press, and both of them, they make a number go up, and everyone likes when numbers go up because it's really satisfying. So if you could help me out with that, that would be spectacular. Even be a channel member if you fancy. It's, I think, a couple of quid a month. Very, very genuinely helps out the channel. It makes it sort of more worth my while to actually do this, and you get a bunch of videos and stuff early. I'm going to leave that there. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you later. Toodaloo, friendos.